Oh no, Bogus. What has happened to thee? Tettum dirarole, patorte si tiudai. Ai vurtan sandalo paragin nalabaros tutta vargaravis. Sorte Instagram @_ ThyGap. Pritto per Twitter @ThyGap. Oh, and sinto persisikuto Facebook ThyGap page. Peke tutto sonto. E tu, Bogus, e tu.
And back from the dead, welcome everyone, ladies and gentlemen, to the next episode of the ThyGap podcast. This is episode number 5. My name is Bogus and my co-host is
Being Brute.
Welcome to the episode, Brute. What's going on?
Another new episode. You know what that calls for?
What does it call for, Brute?
To let everybody know what we're talking about.
Ooh, what are we going to talk about today? Well, as you guys know, this is a humorous podcast. You come here for the humor, apart from all the other things. And immodestly or otherwise, Brute and I consider this to be our trade, hopefully, in the future. Humor. What about humor itself? Do we really understand everything that goes under that one word, humor? So, Brute, let's start with the very definition itself. What is your definition of humor?
We all have like a superficial understanding of what is funny, what is comical, or what is humorous.
And then there's the subjective aspect of it, which is I find this funny.
Yeah.
I don't find this
funny. We all have our own understanding of what it is.
Yep.
Right. For me, Bogus, it's a very interesting thing, and I think it is the ability to exaggerate something to a point that it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Da.
What is there?
In Russian, da.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense anymore. Therefore, it becomes laughable.
I agree, Vladimir. What I think is anything that makes you laugh is humor, my friend, my brother, my padre.
Yes, my brother from Saudi Arabia. Basically, for me, humor is, I think, first of all, humor exists everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? It's like how they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
It's the same with humor.
Yep.
If you can see the funny side of anything, if you can figure out the humor part of anything, then it exists for you or it doesn't exist for you, right?
Yeah, I think the aspect where humor becomes something that is everywhere is where there is a place where comedy and tragedy meet.
Right.
And because of the conditions of our lives in general, I think that's where we see that as funny. And that becomes like one of the kinds of humor that we will go into.
True that.
So why do you think it exists in the first place?
One is for just so that the saying can exist that laughter is the best medicine. That is one thing for sure. Mm-hmm. And the second thing about why humor exists, because I think it balances the other emotions that we have. If you see, for example, I mean, we have a lot of sad emotions. We cry, we have sorrow, we have, we go to dark places in our mind, right? There's so much of complexity on the negative side of emotions.
No, those places, they be so dark.
So dark. No current at all. No electricity.
Yeah.
Always a power cut. Nonsense. But if you look on the happier side, there's only so much that you can experience,
Yeah.
right? Like, what else can you experience beyond happy,
Ecstatic.
which is basically a magnitude of happiness?
Yes.
But they all function in the same way. I feel that they all have the same effect on you. I mean, you be ecstatic, you be happy, you be I don't know what is that. I don't know other words for happy.
Content.
Content is a form of happy. Is that a direct synonym for happy, or?
No, I think happy is a very momentary thing. Whereas if you say content, then that means
A state of mind.
it is a state of mind. It is not so momentary anymore.
Correct.
You're pretty much, that's your default state.
Right. So now, coming back to the question of why humor exists, I think that is the only tool which helps you experience any form of happiness or positivity on a regular basis.
Right. So you're
There
saying
is enough out there already that can put you into sadness.
right. So you're saying it is a way to connect you to happiness.
Yes, absolutely. That's my philosophy.
Okay. And my own theory would be it is a way to process challenges or difficulties or disappointments, which all lead up to the big daddy, the subconscious fear that all of us have, the existential fear of death itself. So I feel like humor is our way of processing difficulties and challenges and subconsciously death, and also kind of rebelling against it a little bit. And also it's a way to, because you can't make sense of it all, it's a way to cope. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I think I would second that also. Another thing that I also want to ask is, do you see levels of humor? Like, is there a possibility of to go out and seek for humor? Because I personally feel, why I'm asking that is, I personally feel humor is a solution to a lot of identity crisis.
A lot of crises, yeah.
Right?
Humor,
like emotional, mental crisis, not physical crisis. Say if if your leg is fractured, then humor might not be the crisis solver. But at the same time, some unfortunate event, but you have to live with this reality that, say, you don't have an ability, for example.
Right.
Okay. Humor fulfills that. Humor can take any form, right? And it can make you feel more fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right?
It's also a socializing catalyst, in the sense that if your leg is broken, you don't find anything humorous in that, but your friends who visit, they'll be laughing. So
Yeah.
imagine if you couldn't laugh in that situation, being friends, that you have to just go there and be somber all the time and be like,
oh, I'm so sorry, bro.
Yeah. Even though
That
we
was
know
bad.
it's just a leg, it's a clean fracture, he's going to be all right in a few days.
Yeah.
And that's why we
It's
laugh
a
about it.
solvable thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is why humor exists. Right? And that exactly is what humor for me. It is that power that you can get when you search for, which can help you in different situations of life.
It is a defense mechanism or a shield of sorts.
It is an empowering shield. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a defensive shield. So this is
Sometimes.
another thing. A lot of people feel a need. It's like this rap thing that is going on nowadays, right? For example, all upcoming rappers or whoever
Right.
are rapping about this child abuse or like
It has
adversity
to be something like that,
or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So, but that's not a compulsion. Like, for you to be a good rapper, you don't need to go through a lot of pain to like write a good rap song.
True.
And the same thing is for humor. It is understood as a defense mechanism, but I don't think it is.
Oh, I mean, different people use it differently. Some people, it's a defense mechanism. Some people, it is an empowering
Yes,
thing.
for people who need it,
Yeah.
then definitely it is a very good defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Right? It's a coping mechanism also. I mean, to put it in a different way, defense mechanism is also, you can also call it as a coping mechanism.
Okay,
You're going through
yeah.
a lot of nonsense as a kid.
Yeah.
And then you turn to humor and start making fun of it.
Yeah.
It is how you cope up to it, right?
Yeah, which
You're not-
leads us to the next question, which is, how did it all start for us individually? Like, if we look at it personally, because with humor, there's a lot of subjectivity that comes into the picture as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
speaking of defense mechanisms, I get that when we were kids, we all found something funny, entertaining. We all liked something funny because it's an obvious response.
Right.
That
So are you asking like how did I realize I am funny, or
No.
what was funny for me?
How did it start for you? You know, the humor. Like where did it start? How did it start? So for me, you can tell me what your situation is after mine. So in my case, like everyone, as a kid, I enjoyed funny things, yes, but it did not solidify until it became a major coping mechanism or a defense mechanism. So when
it was a defense mechanism.
it was for me.
Okay.
And that's when I started leaning into it a little bit more than usual. So when I started leaning into it was when I was in school, right? I was in a boys' hostel and there was a very clear pecking order. And I was at the bottom, somewhere in the, not exactly the bottom, but in the bottom section, let's say. So I was not physically strong. And so obviously the physically strong people were at the top of the totem pole. And for me to get my word across or for me to have any effect on them, right, I had to rely on humor because I couldn't really rely on my physical strength at that point of time. Now I'm strong as an ox. I mean, try it.
You're shameless.
But,
That's what you want to say.
Back then, it was a way for me to process what was happening with me and also to give back. If I couldn't hurt them with my hands, then maybe I could say something that'll keep noodling his brain for next week.
You didn't answer your own question.
No, I did. It's a defense mechanism. So
I'm saying,
into it.
then you have to answer my question. And my question is, how did you realize humor was a defense mechanism? I mean, see, it could have been writing a diary.
Right.
Or it could have been going alone and, going in a room and sitting alone.
Right.
Could have been a defense mechanism. Avoiding the whole scene is defense mechanism. Right. But how did you realize that humor would be like the best choice, or how did you end up choosing humor as a coping mechanism?
I think if I can remember it right now, it was actually the difference in ass kicking. Like if I got my ass kicked for any usual reason, right, the experience of that was different than if I actually made up something about some guy and I taunted someone and when they got back to me with punches. So it was way more intense in the latter scenario.
You are talking about effort to reward ratio. You felt more, you felt more happy by giving it back in a humorous way.
No. What I'm trying to get at is, see, when someone is...
You are a sadist, basically.
No.
Sadist.
No.
You pride on sadistic pleasure.
None of this is true. What I'm trying to get at is, when they come to kick your ass, right?
You're talking about literal ass kicking?
Literal ass kicking.
Okay.
Literal ass kicking. Like primal, jungle stuff.
Right.
Okay, so when you're at the receiving end of that, now there was a lot of difference between how you got your ass kicked if it was for some trivial thing, like not your fault.
People came and bullied you.
People just come.
They found you, so they started kicking you.
Yeah, it's just about landing a few punches,
right.
And making sure
Showing
that making
superiority.
Sure that, and making sure that the guy is hurt, and that's a job done. But
do you think they're justified in doing that with a face like yours, Bogus?
As opposed to when they're kicking your ass for getting back at you because you said something, or you taunted them, or you pulled their leg, or made fun of them, then just by their reaction, I could see, and the reaction and by how hard they were hitting, I could see how much it was actually bothering them. It was bothering them way more than anything else I could have done. So if their ass kicking is bothering me, then my verbal quips are bothering them just the same. That's how I could figure out that, okay, there's something happening here.
So this was your revenge mechanism more than a defense mechanism, because defense mechanism is technically to avoid the whole thing or avoid the blows. Coping mechanism is, okay, I got a blow, now I'm going to cope up from it. But what you're telling me is more like a revenge mechanism, because you realized and correct me if I'm wrong, right? You realized that when somebody gave you, like somebody physically attacked you, and you reverted by mentally abusing them.
Right.
Like you are using vocab as your tool.
Right.
And your wit or whatever, that is. and you felt that you caused more damage than the damage that was caused to you.
Well, it was not about who would cause damage. It was about making it a level playing field.
Who had the last laugh?
No, like making it a level playing field in the sense that there is a battle going on. This guy has maybe like assault rifles, and I don't have that. I just have a knife. But I also have mortar shells. So I'm just going to use my mortar shells and try to fight him from a distance. Whereas he tries to fight me with the assault rifles. You know, it's that kind of a difference. Basically, I wanted to fight back. And this was a great way. Because I saw what kind of an effect it was having.
So you chose your own weapon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it seemed to come to me more easier than muscles, for example. So...
yeah, I think it still comes easier than muscles.
Well, now it's like 50-50, you know.
because this is a non-visual podcast. You can't lie to people just like that.
I'm not lying. Come to Kailash Gym. You ask anyone about Bogus, they'll tell you. You come there, they'll tell you.
Correct. Who's Srinivasa? Who's the obvious bodybuilders are Praveen and Srinivas.
You ask anyone, they'll tell you.
Sinana is the obvious gym instructor for any gym in the place that you stay. But it's interesting, dude. Like it still sounds like a revenge mechanism for me.
Fair enough.
From where I sit.
Yeah,
right?
Fair enough.
The way I'm listening to the story or picturizing the story that you told.
Like you're literally sitting right now.
Yeah, I'm literally sitting.
Where did it all start for you?
For me, I think it just started... I really can't put a finger on how it started or where it started.
Earliest memories
of mine was the addiction to stage or a performance.
Okay.
The interesting thing was I was always into performing. And one of the early memories that I have was this fancy dress competition that I was participating in school.
So similar to mine, yeah. Okay.
So I was in my second grade, if I'm not wrong. And my mom dressed me up like a joker.
Okay.
Right? And till that time, I was just this aloof guy, from what I remember. Or I'm
you
basically...
Mean clown?
Huh?
Clown.
I'm not a clown.
No, your mom dressed
you
you
my
as
mom
a clown.
dressed me as a clown, as a joker.
That explains
like a circus joker.
That explains a lot.
Scars of childhood.
To how you are right now.
Yeah, so, but don't mess around with this joker, okay? Because you ain't have chance for a revenge mechanism when you hit me.
Right.
Got it? Just because your Kailash gym muscles, you can't show it off here. But so the basic plan was I'll have a balloon in my stomach, inside the shirt. I'm going to go on the stage saying that, oh, my stomach hurts,
right.
and blah, blah, blah. And then I pop the balloon and then like, hey, my stomach pain is gone. And then I just like, whatever, come out of the stage.
Yeah.
And I really didn't understand why my mom was making me do that, right? So I just thought it was just a part of the whole act, right? Of wearing that dress and being that part. And everybody else was coming in as a lawyer. So most of them came as Krishna. Some of them came as like a doctor or an engineer, and they had to say this line that I am a doctor and blah, blah, blah.
I would love to see the script of this one.
Yeah. So that's just it. No, imagine this is second grade, right?
Right.
And when I did that, for some reason, people laughed. And they laughed a lot.
I mean, yeah, the way you look itself.
Yes, that is another, the physiology of the character was funny too. So when they laughed, I liked it a lot. It was like somebody doing crack for the first time,
Wow, okay.
Instantly, I felt like, hey, this is something that I don't mind doing again. And then I kept going back to the stage, right? I just... wherever I got a chance to be on a stage, maybe school or that Ganesh Chaturthi time or, wherever it was. And for whatever reason it was, I would go back to stage. Okay, I would look out for a chance to go onto the stage.
Right.
And while doing that in the process, what also started happening is I started imitating people.
Okay.
Just because I could.
Because
there was no reason to it.
Because I was going to ask, like when you say I was addicted to the stage or I wanted to be a performer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That could go two ways. Like it doesn't have to go towards humor or comedy.
Correct.
You could want to be just a serious kind of stage
Yeah,
actor.
it's just like, as long as people are there as long as I'm there on the stage.
Where
right?
you're beating your chest and you're scratching your hair out and you're yelling and moaning and wailing on the stage, basically. You could have been doing that.
Yeah. Just like how you ended up doing things on stage. I could have done that, but I took the smarter way. And I think I started picking up on people's behaviors. If I can go into the story of how I started doing that, my father used to take me to a railway station every Sunday. And he used to ask me to observe people and tell me what they are trying to do. Right? And we basically used to have this small chat about, oh, this person is late and he's angry, or this person is impatient.
You're analyzing people.
Yeah, you're kind of analyzing body languages. And I used to come back home imitating these guys, not understanding jack what these guys are doing.
Right.
But I would start imitating these guys. So one thing led to another. I started imitating my family members, my friends, my father's friends, etc., etc.
And obviously,
all that for a laugh.
an audience forms in front of you and they clap every time you're done.
Yeah, and it's all for a laugh, right?
That's it. You get your hit.
And you get your high.
Yeah, you get
so
your fix.
that's how I started getting deeper into humor. Only later is when I understood, oh, this is called humor.
Okay.
Or this is called sense of humor. And I think in a way I was lucky to understand what was funny. I think that is another thing which I was very lucky about. And not in sense of, on par with like, say, Dave Chappelle or someone. But at least within the room, I was the quickest to understand what was funny or what would make people laugh.
Right. Is this why you choose to spend your time in rooms where there are not more than 4 people?
No, this is why I choose to just sit with you in a room and make you laugh.
Ah, I get it.
It gets easier. The lesser the people, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
You know how it goes, right? That's how the business rolls, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is how I got into humor, or that's how it started for me. And only later on is when I kind of got deeper into it. And deeper. And deeper.
And deeper. It's quite interesting. I'm pretty sure everyone will have their own version of this because it's such a subjective thing.
True that.
And
True that.
You guys want to say anything in the comments about your own experience? Now would be the time to do it. It also lets us know that you've been listening this long. What is it called? Watch time, listen time? What is that bullshit?
Yeah, I think it's listen time.
But types of humor. There are actually multiple types of humor. Most of you may be aware of these things already, but just in case you are not, there are different kinds.
I'll ask you, okay, I'm just going to butt in.
Yeah.
Just like that, because I can. What kind of humor do you think I predominantly rely on?
I think parody and slapstick. Impersonations.
Okay.
Yeah, and self-deprecating, improvisational, these few things.
And you're saying, so basically you're saying that I'm the whole deal.
No, you just 4 deal. 4. You have 4 in the list.
And which one is the best according to you?
My favorite is satire.
No, in me, idiot.
In you?
Yeah.
Well, I've never even thought of that. Why would I waste my time?
I ask tough questions.
Even on a live podcast, would I really want to waste my time thinking about
Absolutely.
you that much?
You have to.
Oh, the questions is so difficult. I think I'm just going to skip over that. It's too challenging. Types of humor. What are the different types of humor? What you heard just now could be classified maybe as slapstick humor. What is your idea of slapstick humor, Brut?
To understand slapstick humor, for me, it's also situational comedy. Right?
No.
So I don't know the textbook definition of what slapstick is, but I think one-liners are what slapstick humor is.
Okay, like for example, for me, my understanding of slapstick humor is more of physical comedy, physical humor, like with the body and fart jokes and the burp that you so eloquently put out just now.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All these things, like basically your Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You were mentioning the definition or the theory, being poor in theory, but it's quite an ironical statement because if there's one category of humor that doesn't have a lot of theory, it's slapstick humor. So that's what slapstick humor is. And we also have something called parody.
Parody, I know. I think it's basically twisting and turning the real story.
Yeah, just there is
that I know. So you should give me marks for that.
There exists
such a good student.
An original item and you're just spoofing or you're making fun of it. You're staying very close to the original thing, except a few subtle variations to make it exaggerated or funny. I think that's parody.
Yeah, basically. And you're also making this sound like one 9th class literature class.
Of course, there's a board here.
Yeah, I know.
We have
Stop doing that.
What else? We covered slapstick, parody.
You haven't told what kind of humor you like.
I said satire.
You only like satire? Only one style?
The best, yeah. I mean, if I had to pick one.
Or pick top 3.
top 3 for me would be satire, um,
Um, oh.
I would go for parody, satire, and improvisational.
Lying through your teeth, dude.
I am, because if I had
You
to pick
like
one,
dark comedy.
dark comedy, yes, I
Oh,
love.
come on.
I love
I know
dark
you
comedy.
better than me. Sorry, I
because-
know you better than you.
Who's the one worth knowing, really,
You.
in this room? Exactly. That's
And
my
you
point.
don't know nothing. And you know only half of it.
What else do we have? Impersonations, which everyone
Impersonations. Yeah. I think every great stand-up or every great comic grew up. So impersonations and observational are very close according to me.
knows. But yeah,
Because impersonation is a subset of observational comedy. The more skilled guys are also able to like bring in the physical aspect of it in the observational joke humor, right?
right. I think
Who do you think is the best impersonator?
best impersonator.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who has the best impressions?
that's a tough one. Let's just go with greatest hits. You have your Johnny Levers, you have your Jim Carreys.
Jim Carrey is definitely one.
And you
Kevin
have-
Spacey, surprisingly, is a very good impersonationist.
I mean, yeah. For a lot of time, Kevin Spacey impersonated a straight guy.
Yeah. That's surprising.
Yeah, he did it very well.
Amazing job.
It was an open secret. That's how we
And
did it.
Trump is impersonating the US president. How cool is that?
Everyone's impersonating something or the other.
What are you impersonating?
I'm impersonating a podcast host at this point. Now, impersonations, we have sarcastic.
No wonder this podcast is not going anywhere.
Obviously, it's not, because
You're
you're
just
going on.
impersonating. You have to live it, dude. You got to give your 100%.
Be the ball. Feel the ball. Sarcastic humor, which is next. Sarcastic humor. Do we really need to explain it? Yeah, so you have what? Self-deprecating, where you put yourself down to make other people laugh at you. Point and laugh. And then you have dark humor, which is...
Now this will go on for the next 20 minutes because Bogus loves dark humor. And he's going
No.
to speak for the next 20 minutes just explaining what dark humor is. Go on, Bogus. I'm sleeping.
Dark humor is, as the word sounds, it's also called gallows humor, where you are finding something funny that usually would be, if it was quite literal, then you would recoil in horror. But it is not literal, it is an imaginary thing. That's where you get the freedom to laugh at it. And when you laugh at tough things, you laugh at dark things, that's basically how you're coping with life. You're coping with difficulties and tribulations and trials and all of that stuff, heavy stuff. Dark humor really helps you process. That's all I had. I didn't really have that much. You really hyped it up.
There are some people out there who started loving history more than what you just said. You should follow the words of the great Rajnikant. And he said, Gatam Gataha. I'm going to translate that to all our non-Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam speaking folks.
Go ahead.
What Rajnikant actually meant is stop listening to Bogus and his boring fucking speeches about definitions and theoretical explanations and just listen to Being Brute and laugh. And while you're laughing, make sure ThyGap, subscribe
And share.
and share.
So that's really what Gatam Gataha means.
The absolute to
packs
the
in-
T.
It packs in all of that into just those two words.
నానా పందులే గుంపుగా వస్తాయి సింహం సింగిల్గా వస్తుంది
So it's true what they said about Sanskrit then. It's quite a
కాంప్లికేటెడ్ లాంగ్వేజ్
sophisticated
యా
language.
యా
Wow.
ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఫర్ ఎవ్రీబడి
Yeah.
సో ఐ వాజ్ సేయింగ్ దట్ హ్యూమర్ ఈస్ ఎ వెరీ ట్రికీ థింగ్ హ్యూమర్ ఈస్ వెరీ కాంప్లెక్స్ ఫర్ అస్ టు లైక్ జస్ట్ పుట్ ఇట్ ఇన్ టు టైప్స్ అండ్ క్లాసిఫై ఇట్
Yeah, that's why we
it
have
takes
two
a
parts.
lot more to understand humor.
That's why we have two parts for this shit. What are you talking about?
Yeah, correct. So we have to finish the first part to go to the second part, no?
Yeah, ma, we have to.
Yeah, then let's go deep into part 1.
I want to talk about satire.
Now you're talking. Yeah. What about satire? Come on, tell me fast.
I think it is one of the most overlooked type of humor. Because, listen, guys, you see artists, you see actors, you hear them talk on the media, and you get it, right? Whenever they open their mouths, it's like,
What? Close-up ad? What are you talking about? What is ha ha ha?
No, it's like,
Kya
oh my
close-up
God.
karte hain?
All kinds of hot takes, which no one really asked for. There's a reason for that, because some people are disconnected from the practical, real aspect of life. Is it because they live inside of their heads? Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
What are you talking about, Bogus?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So now you made me forget what I was actually talking about.
See, you have to work under pressure when you... See, this is what, Bogus, that's what I'm telling you, when you're surrounded by genius like me,
Oh, God.
you have to up your game. You can't just be loose about it. You can't be like, oh, what's happening in the Iraq? Oh, what's happening on the Mars? You have to focus. And speak to me.
What I was saying was, so the art of either acting or comedy, these are like soft skills, right? Everyone agrees. It's not like you're a carpenter or you're a plumber where you're doing something real, physical, tangible. If there was one aspect of humor that actually has real life implications that could actually cause that social change or a revolution, it is satire. It is the only one. Parody could come close, but satire is where it just doesn't stop at mocking something. Satire is where there is an underlying message that is hidden, or an underlying truth that is hidden in it, where the process of processing satire from the perspective of an audience is where you first come across the joke. The joke could be dark. It could be about something real and current affair type. And you first get the joke. It makes you laugh. But there is always an aftertaste with satire, where after you're done with your laughter, that is when the anger starts brimming to the surface because of the uncomfortable truth or the point that was just made through satire. You first laugh, and then you feel the anger, or then you feel the disgust, and that drives you to action. Now let's look at this from the other way around. What if there was no joke to begin with? What if I wanted to broach a very difficult topic like poverty or population?
No. Let's not go.
Like that.
Okay, let me just stop you there.
Without a joke, right?
No, that's what I'm saying.
It becomes very difficult to have a conversation with people.
I'm just going to dial back a little.
Sure,
because you're going way too deep, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, can satire address things, or how does satire come into the picture? Right. I have an issue with satire. Is not everybody gets a satire joke.
Yeah.
Okay, because again, how it is more relevant to how you are connected to the topic on which satire is being built on. I'm trying to get to the point where satire is it's a gray area.
It is.
Yeah.
Because there's layers.
There's a lot of layers,
and
right?
You asked a really good question before, which was, what is the need for satire, or what drives the need for satire, right?
Right.
I feel like satire only exists because there is some kind of obstruction to actual freedom of expression. The reason why satire exists is because you want to say something, but you can't directly say it for whatever reason. So you are hiding that message now inside of a joke, or you're hiding it, you're putting it underneath some layers because you don't really necessarily...
You're masking the real message.
You're masking the message.
Through humor.
Yeah, but you're also adding it underneath. So the people who get it will get it. It's not something that is driven towards a mainstream audience or the majority of the population. It is accepted and understood that only a select few people would get this, and we're okay with that.
So give me an example of satirical comedy. Just so that we have a clarity of a real-time example.
Satirical comedy, you could think of it as what the court jesters used to do, where...
No, give a more real-time example, like contemporary example.
Contemporary example...
I think Jandiala was great at satirical comedy.
So Jandiala, for those who don't know, he was a movie director. He made Telugu movies, and his style of humor resembles closely to Hrishikesh Mukherjee's style of comedy. For those who know Hrishikesh Mukherjee's works. And Jandiala was a little bit more biting and a little bit more edgier.
Yeah, way edgier. Very close to the laser beams.
Yeah, way edgier than Hrishikesh Mukherjee, but pokes holes, points out, faults in our social structure and makes
traditions.
Really funny.
I think he used to make a lot of fun on traditions, conventions of, societal conventions that are there.
Yeah.
Which are coined to be taboo or something like that.
Yeah, to give you an example, there was a movie, there was a Telugu movie where the hero or the protagonist, there's a scene where he is greedy and he wants to make as much money as possible. So what he does is he goes to the factory where they make jeans and he basically starts eating pan, spits on the jeans.
No, on the shirts.
On the shirts also.
On the shirts.
He does it on the pants.
It's not
also.
greedy. So the context basically is he loves a girl, but he's this useless guy with no job and all.
Right.
And some astrologer tells that within so and so time he'll become like a king.
Right.
So he just goes blindly on the predictions, right?
Okay.
And he keeps telling his would-be father-in-law that I will become a king.
Right.
So you better give your daughter to me now because anyhow I'm becoming a king.
Right.
But the father-in-law is a successful businessman. So he knows what goes into becoming successful. So he challenges him saying that if you can get X amount of money within this time, then I'll give my daughter to you. Yeah. So then he's basically going from, and he's a smart guy. It's not that
he's a very street smart guy.
Yeah, he's a street smart guy. And he comes across a person who's about to commit suicide.
Okay.
And then he goes and saves this guy because he's a nice guy, the protagonist. And he asked him, why are you trying to suicide? And he said, I got this lot of textile, the shirt pieces, whatever, and the order got cancelled. And I have spent every last penny of mine to acquire this order.
Right.
And now I don't have anywhere else to go but to kill myself. Then he starts consulting. He starts to offer consultation to this, saying that if I help you out in selling this lot, will you give me the said amount of money so that I have my own problem of, going and getting my love of my life. So that's how he ends up at the factory and he comes up with these street smart ideas of ways to sell. He pokes holes.
Remember, he was poking holes in clothes like in trousers, which we are now walking around in ripped jeans. Back then when this movie came out, it was in the 80s or 90s.
Early 90s.
Early 90s. There was no concept of ripped jeans or distressed jeans, or there are literally jeans where it actually looks like someone's spat pan on the jeans, dude.
Yeah.
It has spots and shit.
Yeah.
So
you know of the bullet hole jeans with Wrangler or Levi's came up with?
Yeah.
They were big thing, dude. They were big thing.
So that is when you can say satire is so effective, because this guy, he made fun of something that also turned out to be prophetic in nature. Like 10 years, 20 years down the line, this is the trend that we are following. I'm wearing ripped jeans right now.
Yeah.
So satire is also, it's grounds for revolution. Like I said, when you want to get more people on your side, you could either do it with an impassioned speech a la Hitler.
Right.
And have hordes of people raising their hand and following your every word. Or you could be a funny motherfucker, like you could just...
So I got a weird thought.
Yeah.
Do you think Dave Chappelle is satirical in his comedy? Because a lot of his stand-up acts are about how police treat blacks. And I know I'm touching like a very sensitive nerve here. But,
none of our listeners. Yeah.
Like now people are going back, a lot of stand-ups, a lot of people, activists and all, are going back and are now telling that, hey, Dave Chappelle predicted this. He bought it out in the open that this actually happens.
Right.
I mean, one of the jokes that I remember is whenever Dave Chappelle's house is robbed, he doesn't complain to the police because, the whole joke was about how police will come to his house.
Sprinkle white powder on him.
Yeah, I mean, like all kinds of shit, right? They will make him they'll be like, hey, this guy robbed the house and put up his own family pictures in this short time to make this house look like his own.
Yeah.
Whereas they don't even consider that he raised the complaint.
Yeah.
Right? I think the take on police brutality towards blacks, right? I feel that is satirical, if you can call it. I don't know if you can call that satirical.
I feel
but that does address or
Yeah, it's a social issue. He's making
Right.
you laugh, but there is the ugly truth underneath
correct,
everything that he's saying.
right,
And that was true with Richard Pryor as well. There was a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
ugliness
Yeah.
underneath what he was saying.
right.
But people were laughing. Also, if I have to compare Chappelle's work, if you compare his sketch show to
Oh,
his
yeah, yeah.
stand-up,
Yeah.
then his stand-up is satire light compared to his...
I know the Chappelle show.
Oh my
The Chappelle
God.
show is amazing.
That was like a hammer of satire, dude. It
Right.
was like Thor's hammer or something.
Right.
Very potent.
Right, right. I think satire basically, I know we're going deep into it, but my final thoughts on satirical comedy, the best way somebody can understand, or if you have to, if I have to explain it to somebody, what I would say is, if a joke makes you think,
Yeah.
right, about the reality of life,
Or something.
anything, if
Yeah.
it is provocational,
If there is an aftertaste.
Right.
It's not just I came, I laughed and I left.
right, you take the joke back home,
Yeah.
or you start seeing the joke everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Then it becomes like a satirical comedy, right? Or
Oh,
a
yeah.
satirical joke,
Yeah.
or however, which is opposite to sarcastic comedy, which is the exact opposite to it. Sarcastic comedy makes fun of a particular instance,
Uh-huh.
and it closes the loop. Like sarcasm is more like a conclusion.
It's a closed-ended thing.
It's a close-ended thing.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
loose ends to it,
Yeah.
right? There's no leash there's no rope that you can hold on to.
True.
So I think I don't know if people can correct me or give in their own inputs, but I think sarcasm is the exact opposite of satirical. Sarcasm it blatantly approaches the reality, right? And just reiterates the reality in such a way that it's just funny. Satiric takes an indirect turn, or it pokes at the reality in an indirect way. It doesn't really go directly to it.
Yeah, it's not a direct attack.
Yeah, there are hypotheses, then there is this premise, and there's a context, and this
Yeah.
and that. And satire is not conversational,
No.
right? It's more. It takes a lot of effort to build a satirical joke.
Yeah, that's why it's way easier to show it like in a sketch or in a movie
Yeah,
rather than in a stand-up comedy bit.
absolutely, absolutely. Even scary movie is satirical in a way. If you
I mean, some of them, when they use it that way. For example, there's a horror movie called Cabin in the Woods, which came out recently.
right,
Basically, the whole plot of that movie was playing on common horror movie tropes. Like
Right,
almost
right.
every stage of how people get killed,
right,
of how the tension builds up.
right,
Everything was using common movie tropes or the movies that came before them.
right.
So you can say that was a satire on,
You
on
wouldn't call it a parody?
the horror genre. Parody, I don't call it because they didn't really copy one exact thing. They were taken from many movies. So then what is it a parody of? You can say it's a parody of all the movies, or it is making a comment on the tropes of horror movies.
What do you think Sacha Baron Cohen does? Do you think he does satirical or he does parodies?
I think it's a combination of slapstick and satire is, with a few characters like Ali G, etc., you can say there is satire. But I don't know if there's satire in everything. There's more of slapstick. The slapstick is the common thread that I see
Right.
with that guy.
Okay,
And he maybe combines something else.
fair enough.
Because when he tries to give examples of how something was a satirical take, not everything seems to fly for me. Like some I agree, like his thing about how Ali G was satirical. Okay, I get it. But Borat also, he tried to explain, I don't think I bought it.
Okay.
I don't think I bought it at all. So,
But he definitely is one of the smartest comics who's out there, according to me. His character creations are really, really good.
yeah, his character creations are good. They're memorable.
They're
You
memorable,
can't forget General Aladdin. Like, I've not watched that movie, still I know the name General Aladdin.
Right.
So you can see the impact. But yeah, I think he's more of a performer rather than a satirical guy or a funny guy, because it's a lot more in the impersonation and the characters.
Do you think George Carlin is satirical?
Oh yeah.
Bill Burr?
Maybe he has some jokes that are, but I don't think it's his complete entire thing.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Carlin, because when his specials later on, when he became old and angry, there was quite a lot of anger to take away from a lot of his jokes.
Where does your where do you tap to become humorous? So there is a source, right?
Yeah.
For everything. Creativity always has source. And like you said, say George Carlin was very angry later in his days, and he kind of took a different style of.
His specials
comedy.
were more angry. I don't know if he was angry himself, but his specials were.
Yeah. Okay.
And they were funnier for me at least, for that reason.
So where do you think is the source? Where do you think somebody gets their humor from? Is it purely their surroundings, or is it a mental state? Like, where does that element of being funnier, the funniest guy in the room, come from?
Funniest guy in the room is more of a showbiz thing. It's more of a performance. Because the minute you're trying to be funniest, then it's a performance.
Yeah,
Okay,
then strike out that question. Then let's go back to the first version of it. Where do you think the source of humor is?
Yeah, for like we said, because there's so many different types of humor, I think it is different for different people.
Okay.
So if you ask me, if there is something that I feel is wrong, and I don't have the immediate power to do something against it, to correct it, then I'm going to process it by making fun of it or mocking it.
So will you say that helplessness kind of helps you become more funny?
It's a mixture of, in my case at least, it's a mixture of helplessness, anger, disgust, a little bit of powerlessness against a problem that is so big that no one person can really do something to fix. You need
helplessness or adversity.
Everyone.
Which one would you put your money on?
No, helplessness
For
against
you.
adversity.
For you, I'm saying.
Yeah, for me. It's helplessness against some kind of adversity, right?
Okay.
Some kind of a problem.
Because it's exactly opposite for me. You know, I have to be in this happy state to be able to be funny.
Yeah.
I think this is something that we discussed before also.
Yeah.
If I'm balked by some issue, and it can be any issue, right? I just can't be funny. I can't even go back to that place.
Yeah.
Because I know few people, like you are a good example of that, where you get irritated by something, right? And then after some time you go back to it and you are able to derive a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Right? Any kind of joke.
Yeah.
For me, that's not the case. For me, even if I go back to like something that I'm irritated about, I'm still irritated about it.
Yeah.
Which always made me wonder. And I'm a person who strongly believes that everybody's funny.
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone is
It's
funny.
just that they don't bother to tap that side.
Yeah.
Right? So I always wonder, like, okay, why don't people tap that side? Because life is so simpler, right? When you realize that there's a certain place that you can go to in your head where things can, through humor you can break down things into a simpler format for you to accept it. Then why don't people leverage that?
Because I think the major blocker is you need to be, and I'm not joking, but it does need humility.
And that's a good point, by the way.
Yeah.
Humor is a very serious business. I was having this conversation with one of my friends, and he was like, dude, I'm not so funny. I can imagine when you guys are sitting and whatever, writing jokes or whatever it is.
Right.
I can imagine that I don't think I have anything to contribute to, and I don't want to be a party pooper.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you have no idea. Like, if I can only imagine if somebody's writing a joke, I can't imagine he's sitting with a pen and paper and just laughing his ass off. Like, ha ha ha, this is so amazing. I just can't see that and it was resonated by what Dave Chappelle said once, where he said that comics have this huge responsibility of going so deep to any point to find the funny that they stop having value for them, or it's painful for them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because they're trying to go to a place where nobody else is going. And it's a very serious thing. You need to be courageous. You need to be so self-assured that you can come back from there.
Right.
Etc., etc., etc.
Right.
So, like you said, yeah, it's not a joke to just talk about humor.
Yeah. And no, yeah, I agree. But also, as a direct response to your question, right? Like, everyone is funny, but how come some people don't hone it? It's because, like you gave the example of a guy you knew, right?
Right.
There's a guy even I used to know where his just way of being
The sad part is we only know so many guys.
Exactly. His just way of being was funny. He didn't really have to make a joke.
Yeah.
You know, just his personality, the way he expressed his thoughts, the way he combined with his voice, whatever it is.
Body language. They use every part of their body.
Yeah,
right?
he was a walking, talking source of fun.
Yeah.
And when they come and say something like, I wish I could also write down jokes and, you know, make jokes like that.
Yeah.
And then if I say, but don't you realize, like, you yourself are a source, never ending.
Yeah.
We find almost everything you do funny.
Right.
And we laugh at it. So then it goes to, because the way I see a reaction to that. Like as if they're taken aback or they take a step back. Because,
they can't believe it.
No, it's not that
How did you say that to me that I'm funny?
No, the fact is they're taking a step back because for them it is like, oh, you're saying that I myself am funny? Like I'm the joke? So people are going to be laughing at me?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I would rather want to write down jokes and I would want to present this on the stage and I want people to clap and laugh at that. But I can't be the butt of the joke. Like you're saying people are going to laugh at me. How am I supposed to like that?
Right.
I'm saying if you're coming to this line, bro, you got to have zero ego. You have to be the butt of the joke.
The fear of vulnerability. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Humor. Yeah. I get that. I think, that answers my question as to why people don't go there because
you need to take
shots. You have
shots.
to strip naked.
Yeah.
Right? You have to strip naked, and it's the same in acting in a way. You know, you can, as an actor, you can act so many different characters, right?
Right.
But tell an actor to act as himself. They can't do it.
Yeah.
They just don't have that image of how to be myself. It's like putting a mirror in front of them and saying, like, just copy it.
But
and they just can't do it.
All I do is copy other stuff.
It's so ironical, right?
Who am I?
Who am I?
Yeah.
Like the great Jackie Chan said.
Yeah.
That
was from Police Story 3.
Yeah.
So
we're giving the credit so that we don't have any copyright issues.
Yeah. So it is
it's a deep thing, what we just said.
You need to experience defeat. You need to be able to accept
rejection.
You need to be able to accept the concept of death, that yes, you're going to die. It's around the corner. There's no way of knowing. It can happen
anytime.
It can happen anytime. The people you love, the people you enjoy, whose company you enjoy.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to go. You know.
Are we still talking about humor, or are we talking about death?
No, I mean, I think death plays a huge role in the humorous process, at least. It's always there at the back end. Like, it's always there behind.
Okay. Then, I have another question.
Yeah.
At what point do you see funny? At what point do you see the humor in it? You know, like, for example, I'll take my own example. I said, if I'm very happy is when I can see the fun in the fun parts of things, right? And that is because if I'm not happy or I'm not in that state, I can't quite accept things.
Right.
So when I don't accept things, I can't really feel their mind to do something about it. Okay. For instance, if I have to like crack a joke about you,
right,
I should be in the frame of mind, or I should have that absolute confidence that, hey, you know, Bogus is a really good friend of mine, and anything I say or anything I, you know, intend to put across, Bogus will get me.
Okay.
That's the confidence I need to have for me to put out anything.
Yeah.
And that conviction gives the fun part of it, or the humor part of it, that allows me to drive that. So at what point do you think people generally see the humor of it? Because I still can't quite figure out how people evaluate humor. You know, it's such a tricky thing. It's so many permutations and combinations, right? One, I feel the only thing that I figure out is if you can portray that you're a funny guy somehow, and that's again every person for themselves.
Yeah.
If they can portray that they're a funny person, any shit that they say is funny. You know, people react to anything they say.
Yes.
Right? For example, you see Kevin Hart's and all the major stand-ups, right? After a point, when you look closely, the jokes are not that deep, or they're not that great.
I mean, talk about Indian stand-up.
Indian stand-up, right?
Yeah.
So, but they have created this image that they're this absolutely funny people.
Yeah.
And I've actually experienced it when I went to one of the stand-up shows Arvind. And I saw that, hey, this guy he has that energy to just make people laugh.
Yeah.
And you are also
Charisma.
not charisma. It's one thing to be charming.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to this guy after the show.
Right.
And he's a nice guy, he's a fantastic guy. But the energy I was getting from the other people, right?
Right.
In the audience.
Right.
It was like crowd mentality. Oh, they are laughing, I'm going to laugh.
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes it's even like, it is not even in your control. You're in an auto mode.
The lack of individuality or individualism.
Yeah.
Where the minute you get into a crowd, now you're signing so many contracts without your knowledge, which is, oh, I'm at a comedy show. If everyone claps, I'm going to clap. Or I'm going to laugh when it's not even that funny.
Yeah.
Because this is the ambience, this is the atmosphere. I've come here, I've paid money to laugh.
So many things, right? You go with such a predefined notion.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask as to what do you think at what point do you think people identify funny?
I think when it is absolutely undeniable. Like if there's a joke, and there's two parts to this in my answer. One part is absolutely undeniable. For example, I'm not planning to laugh. I'm planning, for example, when I was watching the play.
Right.
And the part where you were on stage, obviously you like to do a lot of small things, like small gestures, to add to the funny, overall funniness of the scene.
Right.
And you try to include so many things there. So my perspective as an audience is not like every other audience where they're coming because they paid money, they're going to laugh. I'm actually trying to judge.
Right.
Is this good or not? Am I liking this or not? So I'm looking at it with a very skeptical kind of judgy kind of attitude.
It's guys like you that make me look bad on stage.
But hang on. When you do something which is completely...
We're going to have a talk about this, by the way, after the recording.
I don't think so, because you like where I'm going. When you do something that is completely improv, and I had no expectation of that, the script of the play, the way it was going until that point, there was no prediction. There was no way to predict that you would do something like that. I'm caught off guard. And then all of a sudden, involuntarily, I laugh. Because it was not planned and it fit somehow in the scene and it was funny. So now when it is involuntary for me, when I didn't have any intention of being a crowd mentality kind of guy, that is where you know, okay, there is something here, because I had no intention.
Got it. Okay.
It was forced out of me.
So surprise element always works.
Surprise attack. And the second aspect, the second part to my answer was, one, it is involuntary laughter.
Right.
The second thing is very funny for a lay person who is not known to be funny or who's just known to be a consumer of funny stuff. For a lay person, for them, they're okay. They're willing to accept something as a joke or as a humorous bit as long as it is not pointing to them.
Where their identity is not being like harassed.
For example, if you're talking to a Tamilian guy,
right,
and you're making jokes on Biharis, on
or
Delhi
Gujarati,
people, on Gujus, all these guys, he is laughing his ass off. The minute you say something about Tamilian guys now, there he's going to stop. You know that.
Yeah, you're touching a nerve.
Is with the lay people.
Yeah,
that's what
you are. No, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I think we are going into a zone where, which is my favorite part of humor, right? How do you? One is self-depreciating, right?
Yeah.
Deprecating. What is it? How do you pronounce that?
Self-deprecating.
Don't show off. Don't show off. But yeah, self-deprecating. The other is you are kind of, deprecating the other person or the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And still, you're getting a laugh out of him. Now, there are few guys who I really admire who do that
who can laugh at themselves.
One, they can laugh at themselves.
Yeah.
And then two, they're picking on someone and making that person laugh the most. Forget about the other person also. So it's basically like you're picking on me in a certain way that I'm not even feeling bad, but I'm loving it.
Yeah.
The fact that you're picking on me.
Everyone else is laughing.
Everyone is laughing. I'm not feeling bad that people are laughing at me.
And instead of you being mocked at,
grumpy,
or instead of you being insulted, you're now the man of the show.
Suddenly you have
all the spotlight.
Exactly, right? And the very few comics who succeed in doing that is what I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that for me is the highest form of humor,
I
where
think-
you make the person accept who he is and see the fun part of it.
Yeah.
And you don't even know that person.
Yeah, I think like you always generally say how much of an important thing trust is in humor.
Yeah.
This part is where empathy, unless you're empathetic as a comic, you can put yourself in the other person's shoes.
True.
You will not be able to come to that level where you can make fun of a person but still not insult them.
I will simplify it even further. Conveying intent through your conversation or your joke.
Effective communication.
It's basically effective communication,
Yeah.
number one. And two, it is, I think that's the highest form of communication.
Oh, yeah. It is the end goal.
End goal.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be, where
You're
you
at
say
100%.
something. And because self-deprecating is super easy, I feel.
Not for
In
some
a way.
people.
For some
Yeah.
people. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm talking about people who have invested enough on themselves
Right.
through humor, right? For them, it's very easy because it's safe, number one.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to judge you for, hey, you're making fun of your own teeth. What an idiot you are.
Everyone's going to laugh.
Everybody's going to laugh
Yeah.
because everybody feels safe,
Safe.
right? He's not going to come to me because he's too much to speak about himself.
Yeah.
You're I think the easiest thing to make somebody laugh is portray this loser image, right?
Exactly.
Nothing against it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Humor is humor. But I feel that's the easiest way to do it. Like, I'm saying, dude, I'm an idiot, and people are like, ha ha ha, wow, you're an idiot. Cool.
Yeah.
But the challenging thing, according to me, is calling the other person the idiot
Yeah.
and still winning the conversation.
Making them laugh.
Making them laugh. Like, getting the laughs out of that person.
Yeah.
That for me is like, I think that is, you have to be like a genius to do that.
Yeah, because you're playing a very tricky game there. You're dealing with ego,
Exactly. And not even your ego.
which is so fragile.
right.
Handled with care.
This way up.
This way up.
Yeah. But that's another interesting topic, Bogus, which is how do we get there, right?
Yeah.
Like the highest form of humor. What is the highest form of humor is one. And I think to know that, we have to go back to what all goes into humor,
Right.
right?
Right.
In the sense, like we started off the conversation, humor is not a simple thing. It's a very complex thing.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it is a concept as close to as God.
For
Right.
me, it is a concept as simple and as complicated at the same time as love.
You're a romantic kind.
Born romantic.
I'm a philosophical kind. So
Right.
obviously our examples are different. But we understand. Touche.
Yeah.
I think we are on the same page. So why was I saying that again?
I think you're saying that because this is not a small subject, and that's the reason why you have a part 1 and a part 2.
Oh yeah. So this brings us to, saying a momentary bye to this topic. For
Yeah.
a bit. And
It's
we are
the
going to say
conclusion.
hi to it again soon.
In the next week's episode.
Next week's episode. Sorry for keeping everyone waiting for how will the end look? Will there be light at the end of the tunnel?
How many people will die in the process and
How many
sacrifice their
holes?
lives?
How many holes does a jeans have?
How many comedy bits are there? Are there any songs?
All unanswered questions will
Who
be
knows?
answered in the next episode of the ThyGap podcast.
So make sure you tune in, guys. And it's going to be one hell of an episode. A part 1 and part 2 of the longest treatise on humor ever done on an Indian podcast. ThyGap. Subscribe.
And share, guys, and share. Oh, we almost forgot the parcel section.
No, we didn't forget. We were just going there. The parcel section for today.
Can you allow some amount of surprise to be involved? Why do you always have to break the bubble?
Let's do another take.
Okay. So that's part 1, guys. Oh, we almost forgot about the parcel section.
Oh,
no,
bro,
what
we
lucky
forgot.
dude.
We just remember.
Almost.
Okay,
Just
fine.
zzz, we almost zzz.
Yeah. Okay. So parcel section for today is on the lines of humor. We have 2 funny movies for you guys.
Yeah. One from being brute and the other from not being brute.
That's all you need to know. If you want to know why Bogus Noog is Bogus Noog, it's because he's not being brute. That's the main thing.
And that's his biggest regret.
Brute, I'd like you to start off with your recommendation. What do you have for us today?
Oh, it's a fantastic movie back from the 90s, give or take. But it's not a very well-spoken It's not a, what do you say?
Mainstream
movie. Yeah.
kind of movie.
Thanks for helping me out with the language.
As always.
The name of the movie is called Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay.
Okay. It's a super funny movie. And I also want to point out, after I tell the basic plot of the movie, a lot of Hindi movies have taken out this particular plot into the scripts.
Bro,
right?
a lot of Hindi movies have taken out plots from a lot of other movies. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they also have taken out a lot of our time and wasted them. But anyways, The Weekend at Bernie's is a fantastic movie. It's basically, it starts off with two guys, right, who are this chemcha kind of people who are basically ass-licking his boss, the two sales guys, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they're two calm-chore kind of people who don't really want to work hard and stuff like that, right? And their boss is again a similar guy who's kind of has a larger-than-life kind of persona, and his life is always about parties and all that.
Okay.
So what happened? The story starts off with their boss inviting these two guys to his beach house. Right, and in the beach house, he's like, "Hey, you guys should come over for the weekend. I'm going to my beach house, so why don't you guys join me and we'll have like a party?"
Yeah.
So long story short, these guys go to the beach house and they start realizing the dark side of their boss.
Uh-oh.
So basically, he's affording all this larger than life, kind of a lifestyle by scamming other people.
Shady shit, as
Right?
always.
Shady shit. But the way it's a very well done movie, it's a well taken movie, and the rest of the movie after these guys figure out is comedy of errors. The boss dies,
Oh no.
and then and these guys are so reluctant to leave the beach house because
Of course.
they really look forward for this weekend.
It's a
right?
beach house.
It's a beach house in US.
Yeah.
So back then, a lot of people couldn't afford beach house, so these guys wanted to make the most out of it. And that's how they end up roaming around with the dead body of their boss.
Oh.
And it's a complete comedy of errors of movie. It's the premise is all comedy of errors. And it's a very funny movie, very well taken. And in fact, a little trivia. Rachel Green from Friends' favorite movie is Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay.
If that is not an inspiration.
You mean the character, not the actress?
The actress, yeah. No, the character.
The character.
I know the actress's name, you jackass. It's Jennifer
I
Aniston.
just wanted to confirm,
You don't confirm things with me. I'll confirm things with you.
Because Brut tends to have double, triple vision sometimes, guys. And you need to check a few things with him. Like, Brut, how many fingers am I holding up?
4. See?
No, I was holding up 2.
And Bogus Nook has like memory
I rest
lapses.
my case.
He has memory lapses.
my case.
His focus is less than a squirrel's focus, right? And that's why it happens. He forgot that he raised the other 2 fingers after he raised the first 2 fingers.
Great Parcel recommendation there, Brut. Weekend at Bernie's, guys. Check it out. Coming over to my recommendation, an epic, a classic,
Don't do it.
personal favorite of both.
Don't do this to me, Bogus. This is unfair.
No. I am doing
You
it
called
because
shotgun when I was not even there.
I am doing this because we're going to go into this together. This is a personal favorite, a ThyGap stamp of approval.
Yeah,
One of the greatest comedy works of all time.
absolutely.
Monty Python, The Quest for the Holy Grail.
Yee-haw! Dude, one of the best movies. I can't believe that you stole that from under my nose.
I didn't steal it. We'll go at it together. What's the big deal?
I give you the thing. I have other ones.
Okay. So Monty Python, if you don't know about them, they were a comedy group in Britain.
A group of geniuses.
A group of geniuses who came up in Oxford and Cambridge. And they came up from the comedy scene in those colleges. And they got a show at BBC. It was called Monty Python's Flying Circus. It was a sketch comedy show. Again, a staple, a legend in the comedy world.
The pinnacle of
humor. Of sketch comedy.
Yeah.
And then they went on to make The Quest for the Holy Grail, their first comedy movie, which is based on King Arthur and his Knights of Camelot at the Round Table. They go out on a quest to find the Holy Grail because Arthur gets a directive, if I can say that, from God himself, who is nothing but
A whisper from the god.
God, who is nothing but an animated W.G. Grace,
Yeah.
the cricketer, from the sky, tells them to go find this Holy Grail. And so you have Lancelot, Galahad, and all these knights who have each one of them have their own idiosyncrasies. One of them is an absolute coward. The other one is absolutely chaste. And Lancelot, well, he is just needlessly brave and courageous. It's very difficult to explain this movie. Like, how do you know to make out the difference between an African swallow and a regular swallow, for example? It's very hard to explain, but there's no other comedy movie like this. You should watch. This is a landmark, a milestone in comedy films. Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail.
I just want to add on to that. First of all, Bogus is a fucking brilliant choice. I think it's the best parcel that we are ever sending out. The second thing I want to add out is, if you are a fan of slapstick, and when I say slapstick, in the truest form, you should watch out this movie. Check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like slapstick, but there's a lot going on underneath as well. Just pay attention. Keep your eyes peeled out. And for those of you who are fans of horticulture, it's a different level for you guys altogether, because there's animations as well. I'm not going to spoil it any further. Monty Python, The Quest for the Holy Grail.
Yay!
That's it, guys. That's for our part 1 of Humour, episode number 5. How does the Humour episode end? Tune in next week.
Same time on Thursday.
On Thursday for the second part. Bye-bye.
Arrivederci.
Hey, thanks for listening. You can follow this podcast on Spotify to get notified of new episodes every Thursday. We're also on Apple Podcasts for those of you who have partaken in the forbidden fruit. If you liked what you heard, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Say anything like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. A rating and a comment really helps us out. It's free, and I'm told that's a great price. But enough about us, huh? Tell us about yourself. Leave us a comment. Our Twitter is @ThyGap, and we are _ThyGap on Instagram.